Are you a Barcelona fan? Do you love your club unconditionally like a wife would, even if her husband is sleeping around with her best friend? Are you that damn biased that even if the club's best player ended up pushing an old lady onto a busy road, you'd staunchly support them? If that is you, then we have absolutely no faith in humanity. Today's video is not really about us wanting to bash and criticize Barcelona. We are only going to drop some truth bombs here and there and tell you why Barcelona's behavior in the transfer market has once again proved that there is no justice in the world. Now you must be wondering why we're adopting such a tone, so settle down, get yourself some Kool-Aid and start listening to us. Bartomeu version 2.0? Okay, so 2020 and 2021 was terrible for Barcelona. The club was getting pummeled from all directions, results weren't picking up, and the finances were non-existent. So how did all this happen? We're pretty sure why it all happened. Under Josep Maria Bartomeu's leadership, Barcelona became a club that would embark on a spending spree as if they are owned by some spoilt Arab or Russian oligarch. The only problem is that Barcelona were never a Chelsea or a PSG or a Manchester City. They spent over $1 billion on players, and a lot of those players were nowhere near to the level of the transfer fees they commanded. Bartomeu was burning through cash faster than wax, and eventually karma would come to bite him real hard on his ass. But during all the expensive shopping spree, fans were super excited. Of course, most fans are fickle because they simply don't have the time to logically think about the myriad of consequences such actions have. While they were celebrating the arrivals of Coutinho, Antoine Griezmann, Miralem Pjanic, Arthur, Paulinho, Malcolm, among so many others. The fabled La Masia Academy was well and truly forgotten, and a lot of the academy graduates were allowed to leave. Eventually, though, something happened to the entire world. The pandemic effectively brought everything in life to a screeching halt, and football was just another victim. With sponsorship dwindling and fans not allowed inside the stadia, clubs were forced to rescale. Barcelona, though, kept making boneheaded decisions that were short-term. Rather than changing their strategy, they continued spending money. Eventually, the debt situation had gotten so serious that they couldn't even afford Lionel Messi's wages. The Argentine left the club. Bartomeu had already resigned, and in his place arrived Juan Laporta, who was seen as a man with a plan. A man with a plan or no plan? During the build-up to his arrival, Laporta spoke quite eloquently about how he would change things at the club and how he would create Barcelona a sustainable institution. His statements did seem very promising. The sacking of Ronald Koeman and the arrival of Xavi at the dugout was seen as a big win. A few weeks later, they paid big money to sign Ferran Torres from Manchester City, and then they signed Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang, and then they signed that bodybuilder from Wolves who has now returned to England. Thankfully, these additions really helped the club save their season, and Barcelona managed to qualify for Champions League football. In the midst of all this, Laporta decided to usher the club into a new era where marketing and sponsorship was going to help the club reduce the burden on its payroll. A deal with Spotify was announced, which would see the Camp Nou renamed as Spotify Camp Nou. Other than that, the music streaming giants will also be their jersey sponsors. La Masia will also be rebranded. However, that money, even though it is a lot of good money, was never going to be enough to offset the bulging debt situation. Therefore, Laporta decided to go for a financial model where a lot of clubs' financial assets were put on the market. For instance, the merchandising segment is no longer 100% Barcelona's. Similar financial levers have been put in place, including selling off of TV rights, which brings in some additional income. However, this is never going to help Barcelona become a sustainable operation because selling off rights and ownership to your properties has a flip side. It is a way to quickly get some cash flow going, but in the long run, it will hurt a club if performances on the field don't improve. Once again, there's another issue. Performances on the pitch are never the only way to make a club rich. There are thousands of things working in the background, and even if your team is winning things left, right, and center, it might not be the final answer, especially if you have a wage bill that is far greater than your net revenue. This summer, Manchester United have been moving heaven and earth to sign Frankie de Jong. Apparently, a transfer fee has been agreed, but the Dutchman's move is being held up because Barcelona owe him 17 million euros in wages. In the meantime, the Catalans have signed Robert Lewandowski, Raphinha, and Jules Kounde for a lot of money. We don't know where exactly the money is coming from, but we're sure that if de Jong doesn't take a pay cut, registering the summer signings will become a big issue. What has really irked people is that how can a club spend more than 100 million euros in a transfer window yet is unable to pay a current player the wages it owes him? Normally, if something like this were to happen to a player at a less illustrious club, FIF Pro would be all over it and the local government agencies will also be talking about possible bankruptcy. However, Barcelona is being operated like a terrible bank during recession. There is always someone to bail them out and give them a few favors here and there. This is where you gotta feel for the likes of Valencia, Malaga, Derby, and Leeds, because these clubs were not given any favors when they messed up their finances. So the question is, are Barcelona too big to fail, or is Laporta too arrogant? Or is it the fact that the new president is doing the same thing Bartomeu was doing, just to make sure that he remains the club's president for a long time? Their motto might say, "Més que un club," or more than a club in English, but right now, Barcelona are behaving like a club that is showing complete disregard of its long-term financial health. Maybe they will be amazing on the field this season, but who's to say that a few years from now, they would be once again in the midst of another financial mess? Like Fabrizio Romano once said, here we go. So guys, this is our take on Barcelona's weird financial strategy. Of course, we need to have a very lengthy discussion about this, so sound off in the comments and make sure to hit that subscribe button.